Hello and welcome to Asian Pulse TV, an informative and resourceful station. I'm your host Manbir Randhawa, and today we are broadcasting from the unceded territories of Silvertooth Nation, Katsi, Musqueam and Kwantlen Nation. We feel very blessed for the generosity of the First Nation people who let us share this traditional and ancestral land with them to live, laugh and grow. Last week we talked about water conservation, and this week there is another issue that needs our attention, and that is drug related deaths. We all heard about the drug overdose death toll rising in BC, and there are over 1,200 people overdosed and killed with fentanyl from just January until June this year. These numbers are very alarming. There are more deaths of overdose than motor vehicle accidents and natural disasters plus gang murders combined. They are no strangers, these deaths. These people are our friends, acquaintances and our neighbors. The age group ranges from 10 years old to 65 years. It's said that there are 6 deaths every day according to BC Coroner's Office. Let's take a short break and hear some words from our sponsors.
I understand how important it is to have a place called home, and it's frustrating using your hard-earned money on rent. Vic Prasad can make you a homeowner. Get pre-approved services provided to first-time buyers and new immigrants. You can qualify for mortgage even if you have bad credit. Call Vic Prasad now on 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is associated with Craft Mortgages Canada Incorporated.
For any kind of visa-related services, contact Milky Way Immigration, a galaxy of opportunities located at Unit 209-9547 152 Street, Surrey, BC. They have licensed immigration consultants, placement officers, and LMIA experts to meet your immigration and recruitment needs. Book one-time free consultation either on Facebook or by calling 604-396-0005. Bollywood Banquet Hall and Conference Center, located at Pyle Business Center at 201-8166 128th Street in Surrey. No celebration is too small to accommodate you. They have newly renovated 2 halls to serve you, up to 1,000 guest capacity, top-notch chefs to delight you with delectable and heavenly cuisine. So just call Bollywood Banquet Hall at 604-598-2700 for your events. Thank you, sponsors. As the rising heat wave is creating chaos, we will be speaking with Mr. Sandeep Mangat from WorkSafe BC on how to keep cool from heat strokes. Let's welcome our guest.
Hello and welcome to Asian Pulse. Yes, as you all know, summer is here. Summer started on June 21st. But as you all know, the heat and summer is not over. Maybe we might have a rain, a day here and there, but that's not considered rain. We need more rain here, as we all know. BC is burning. There are about 300,000 fires across British Columbia and over 1 million kilometers or acres under fire in British Columbia. That's a sad thing. So we do need rain in our province. But we are here to talk about weather-related issues. We just heard that there were 2 or 3 seniors passed away. It's not confirmed, but I think it may be because of the heat wave, right? So to talk about that, my guest today is Sandeep Mangat. He's a spokesperson for WorkSafe BC. He's in our studios to talk about how to keep yourself cool during this weather. Thank you, sir, for coming in.
Thank you, Kamala, for inviting me.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so let's talk about the weather. With the climate change, this is not just June 21st when we had started having this kind of heat. It started in March or April. I think that sometimes we just have very little rain during that time. So you work for WorkSafe BC. What is your mandate? How can you keep your workers safe?
Yeah, very good point. Like you said, Kamala, that heat is something that is unavoidable. And when you're working, it is part and parcel of what you have to encounter. So what we advise people is that you need to guide yourself, become more knowledgeable and informed about heat stress. So what is heat stress really? You know, when you're working outside, you look at it, our body temperatures generally between 36 to 38 degrees. But what happens is during heat waves like we've had, and like you said, last month, June, has been the ever recorded highest temperature in the world for that
Yes.
entire month. So, because of climate change and other factors and work factors, heat is increasing. So there are three factors that we look at. We look at the environment. So what environment are you working in? If you're working outdoors, for example, farming, construction, landscaping, road work, or outside work of any sort, you are more predisposed to the exposure due to heat, for example, due to the sun. If you're working during the hottest time between 11 and 3, the temperatures are high. Not only is the temperature high, but the radiation from the surfaces, the concrete, the pavement that you're working on, that adds on. And then in the environment is also, is it a hot day? Is the relative humidity high? Because if you have higher humidity, you're going to sweat more, and there's more likelihood that you are going to be facing that. The other factor is the work factor. So where you're working, is it inside? Is there ventilation over there? Is there the right temperature being maintained? Are there other things that are adding on to the heat? Machinery, equipment, that can also increase the heat. And then the third factor is the worker himself or herself. Conditioning is very important. So if a person is on the heavier side, you have more obesity, then you have more insulation, you are not likely to lose that heat easier. The kind of clothing you're wearing. If you're not wearing light clothing, cotton clothing that breathes well, you're going to sweat more. Not only that, you will see that if you're not keeping yourself well hydrated. So, बहुत ज़रूरी है. It's very important that you drink enough water and not drink stuff that is going to make you feel dehydrated. So, if you're drinking coffee or alcoholic beverages, that is going to make it worse. Uh, Advisable that before you start work, at least have 2 glasses of water, and then maintain that water every 20 to 30 minutes. Have a glass of water. So those are the kind of things we're saying that a person can do as a worker to try and mitigate the heat.
I was going to also ask that in some places you can do that. You can take your lunch break, half an hour, 2 coffee breaks, and you can sit down, drink water, go bathroom, and all that. I'm also thinking about berry picking. They work about 16 hours, 14 to 16 hours a day. And they are bent over because berries are small plants and all that, and the heat. And they don't have that kind of break time for them to go and eat or sit and go use the facilities. And I know somebody that goes berry picking. It must be so hard on the system. She goes one day, next day she can't go. Third, fourth day she will go and not go the next day because that's not an easy job.
It's not an easy job. And you're right, when you're working in that kind of environment, they're working on piece rate.
Yeah.
So you gotta go, because the more berries you pick, the more money you make.
Yeah.
So you're right. So they start off early and they go. And so people, anybody who's an outdoor worker, perfect example that you give for a farm worker, for that, what you need to do is make sure that you're well hydrated. Some of them have other medical conditions.
Yes.
So if you have a heart condition, you've got cholesterol, or you've got a problem with maintaining your glucose levels, you're diabetic, those kind of things can exacerbate and make it even harder. So what we always tell people is make sure that you're having routine nutritional breaks and take micro breaks. If you've done a little bit of a row or whatever and you've done a bin or two, give yourself 5 minutes, get up and stretch, and make sure that you're properly and adequately hydrated. So by hydrated, sometimes they say not only just water, because you're also losing essential minerals out of your body. Just say nimbu pani. You have a little bit of salt and sugar added to it, so that you're maintaining your salt levels as well. And also, like you were saying, you have to self-educate yourself and say, I must take a break. I must take a little break and have a drink of water. I must have maybe a little bit of chai, a little snack. So intermittently keep having little snacks. The other very valid point over there is when you're working out in the sun is sun safety. So you're working during the most core hours when it's the hottest. The sun is spitting the most ultraviolet rays, especially ultraviolet A and B. those are damaging to the skin. So we sometimes think, hey, we've got a darker skin, so we are better off in terms of protection. Yes, to a certain degree, but those UV rays are very, very dangerous. So what you need to do is have adequate sun protection cream. So, any cream that's 15 and above is better. I always say to people, don't go for the fancier names because the chemical ingredients are the same. As long as you get a sun protection factor of 15, have that, adequately dress yourself up, maybe have, long and wide brimmed hats, layers of clothing, don't have exposed skin. And then make sure that if you're applying that cream, after about 4 to 6 hours, you replenish it again.
Yeah.
So when you have your lunch break, wash your hands, whatever, you reapply that. Again, also with that, because like you said, skin cancer is a big issue here in Canada, and outdoor workers are 3.5 times at a higher risk than somebody who works indoors.
So if somebody get hurt, or unfortunately we know some people die even, either fell from the roof or during the heat or anything happened, we can, the prime example is that firefighter, 19-year-old, she died fighting fire.
Correct.
And I know that there is investigation going on with RCMP and WorkSafe BC. So any incidents like that, WorkSafe gets involved right away. Is that?
That's correct. So any work, and one of the things I really want to emphasize here is I say any work. So if you are a worker and maybe you are here on a short visit, maybe you're visiting. So perfect example again, if you're a berry farmer or a berry worker and you go out there and you're picking berries, and even if you're a visitor, WorkSafe BC will still cover you.
Yeah.
So make it a point that if you do get injured, you must report that. Coming to an incident like you mentioned about the firefighter who was fighting forest fires, yes, absolutely, we get involved because we are looking at what caused that incident, how can we prevent it, what are some of the things that we must do to mitigate that, what recommendations come out of the safe work procedures, and what needs to be done to prevent such an occurrence from happening again. So that's why we work very closely with the RCMP because we want to make sure that there is no criminal element. To rule that out, we do work very closely, and we have our fatal services and investigations division, and those officers are very well trained in investigating such incidents.
So any case that person dies all of a sudden outside working, do you also go and inspect sites? Because some of them, the sites that I have known, they are not up to date for the people to be, or that many people to be working with no windows, no nothing. So if there is an issue with that, our employee can call WorkSafe BC for them?
Absolutely. So, both your questions are very valid. Do we inspect sites? Yes, absolutely. And that's done proactively as well as complaint driven. So, like you said, if an employee calls in and says the work conditions are not good, the health and safety conditions are not being appropriately being provided, then all you do is call us, and you can call us anonymously. There's a number, 604 276 3100. So 604 276 3100. This is a local number here for WorkSafe. And you can just call in and say, at this particular site, there is this issue, and there are a lot of health and safety issues. And people will call us about, like you say, fall protection.
Yeah.
They'll call us about forklifts. They'll call us about unguarded machinery, not the provision of or lack of water, or bathroom conditions, or could be a piece of equipment that is faulty, electrical problems. So all kinds of issues come to our notice, and then based upon the complaint, we will have an officer investigate that, and we will go in there and do a complete site investigation, basically a site visit, a site inspection, and in that, if there are violations that we see, then our officers, including me, will issue an inspection report with those violations cited, and then also citing what are some of the compliance measures that are required and that a work site must have or the employer must provide.
Do you go announced or unannounced?
Yes, we go unannounced.
Okay.
If we go announced, generally what will
Then
happen
they
is they
clean
would,
up,
yes.
yeah.
So all our visits are unannounced and they're within the core working hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes we will go in as an invited guest for talks to make some educational presentations, or a new employer is starting off on a business and they want us to come in and consult. So we have consultation visits and then we have educational visits as well.
Good. Because sometimes I also find, and I know from few people, especially in the kitchen, in the restaurants, and this is the busy time, people are, everybody is enjoying lunch out there, but they don't have proper fan for the chefs, sous chefs, the people that work behind the scene, getting the food out to you.
Exactly.
They are not very healthy or very good place
Ex-
to be working. Wintertime, maybe it's not so bad. Summertime, because of the oven happening, because of the stove, and you are just sweating. You
Yes.
are not.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. The kitchens are high production areas.
Yeah.
There's a lot of activity happening and fast paced activity. So, not only that increases the core body temperature for the workers, but like you said, sources of the heat from ovens, from frying, and also the environment being quite tight. So we look for ventilation in those places. We look for clean surfaces because a lot of the times we get slips and falls over there too.
Yeah.
So those kind of workers absolutely must rotate their work. There should be good ventilation and a lot of breaks be given because that buildup of heat can happen and a heat stroke can happen, and it's very easy to go from heat stress to heat stroke. And so if you feel disoriented and you are, having shallow breathing, it can even, so what happens is when you go to get to a heat stroke, your core body temperature goes almost up to 41 degrees,
Yeah.
and then you are not able to sweat out, and that can become a very serious medical emergency.
I was also going to ask you with air conditioning. There was some news in recently that the landlord not allowing to put the air condition in because these are old buildings and the socket or they were not meant for the people or the residents to have the air conditioning because that takes quite a bit of power. And so what is your take if we living in apartment where is older apartments and we don't have no air condition, but can you bring your own air condition, and is the BC government gonna make some kind of a law that it's just like heat? It doesn't matter how old the building is, they are supposed to provide you with heat during winter time. Now, nobody ever expected that it's going to be so hot now that we need to, every suite needs air condition, or unless you have a central air conditioning.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a law coming up soon that you're not going to get rid of that tenant because you plugged in the air condition?
So there's a let's talk a little perspective here. I'd like to bring in some numbers at this
Yeah.
point. So between 2018 and 2020, we had about 41 claims per year for heat.
Okay.
For 2021, when we had that heat dome, our claims went up to 115 claims.
Wow.
And last year, our claims were 81. So the numbers are increasing. We are quite cognizant of the fact that, yes, this is happening. Um, in work environments, yes. So we look at indoor air quality. Is the air quality good? Is the temperature being maintained at what it should be? And is the employer doing what's called a heat stress management? So they need to do an assessment at the work site to ensure that you are taking steps to ensure that your workers are well protected. There is a statement, they've done a risk analysis of what the risks are, and then what are they doing to mitigate that. Now, when it comes to individual residences in buildings, it's out of our domain.
Yeah.
And so we cannot, and sometimes we do get calls from tenants, and there could be some strata and tenancy
Yeah.
issues. So we generally tell the people that talk to your own strata, and generally it is expected that they would maintain. But like you said, if it's an older building and it's not equipped with certain standards, I think that's a question maybe for the BC Tenancy branch or maybe BC Housing to come and
Yeah,
discuss.
yeah.
They would be able to give you a better concept. I can talk more about what we
Yeah,
need
further.
for the work environment
Yeah.
and your work location.
Right, right. So, are you hearing anything, any heat-related deaths so far from the seniors?
Yes.
Because in 2020 there were over 600 seniors died due to the heat stroke.
I don't have exact numbers,
Yeah.
but yes, we've heard about it because we work very closely with other partnerships and other partnering
Yeah.
agencies. We work with the Commercial Vehicle Safety Enforcement, we work with BC Housing, we work with Fraser Health. So we try and step in. So during COVID time, WorkSafe BC was working very closely with Fraser Health because we were right in the midst of the different sites.
Yeah.
But for those particular numbers, I would not have exact numbers, but we did have some numbers in 2021, and you're right that the number of fatalities that happened as a result of heat or illnesses as a result of heat management were an issue then.
Last question I was gonna, what about the air quality? People that are working outside with the heat, with the forest fires going on now, how much or how long can you stay outside? We don't have it so much in here, but if you drive inside in Prince George and other places, because WorkSafe takes care of not just BC here, and not Metro Vancouver, but the whole of province. What are some of the issues with heat plus the air quality?
Yeah, so good point. So basically, we don't see as much here down on the lower mainland on the coast, but in the BC interiors, like you had mentioned earlier, that we've had a huge number. In fact, the highest number of forest fires that we've ever had. And so with air quality, we've got certain officers, certain hygiene officers that are monitoring and work closely with the forest services to look at what are the particulates that are suspended in the air. And also they look at whether there is a temperature inversion and if there is no air flowing. So each site is independently evaluated, and the employer's obligation is to ensure that if there are times when there is air quality advisories, not to be working during those periods or to avoid. Sometimes it's possible to do that, but at certain times when you have a fixed work schedule, it might be. So generally, like I said earlier, the ball is in the employer's court to do a work site assessment. And so when our officers go in there, that's what we ask: have you done an air quality and heat stress management assessment? And so basically we work together, and if it is felt that no, this is not conducive for good health, then our officers will work with the other partnership agencies, maybe sometimes to delegate work conditions to be different, or maybe a change in the work cycle. So for WorkSafe BC, we look at a pyramid. So we look at elimination. Can we eliminate that hazard, right? The other thing is substitution. So substitution is a good one. So let's not work during the hot day times, and you will see a lot of road work happens during the night times. And then the third one is administrative controls. That's where scheduling comes in. Can we have an early schedule and an early finish so that we don't have to work during those cold hot times? And then personal protective equipment. Are we providing them with the right equipment? Maybe misting stations, cooling stations, fans. So cool water, micro breaks, work rotation. So those are the things that work in combination. So our officers will design that out and look at what the employer has as a plan. And then we will advise them on certain things. And if there are violations that they haven't done that, that's when specific orders are written by our officers for compliance.
आप थोड़ा अपने हिंदी और पंजाबी में को बोल दो कि especially the senior ladies that go berry picking, or they are working long hours in the blueberry picking of farms, because this is the season too, right?
बिल्कुल ठीक बात है आपकी. अगर आप फार्म में काम कर रहे हैं और जो धूप है, सूरज की धूप और किरणें हैं, उससे बचाना अपने आप को, जो अल्ट्रा वायलेट रेज हैं, वो बहुत ज़रूरी है. सो कृपा करके ऐसा करें कि ध्यान दें आप खा क्या रहे हैं, आप पानी निर्धारित टाइम से पी रहे हैं, आप छोटी छोटी ब्रेक्स ले रहे हैं, और आप मेक श्योर कर रहे हैं कि अगर आप कहीं पे शेड में बैठ सकते हैं थोड़ी देर के लिए, क्योंकि अच्छा आपकी जो दवाइयाँ हैं बहुत ज़रूरी है. अगर आप बुजुर्ग हैं, अगर आप किसी तरह की दवाई ले रहे हैं, तो क्योंकि कई बार हम काम में इतने मसरूफ़ हो जाते हैं, इतने बिजी हो जाते हैं कि हमने बेरी तोड़नी है ये रो पे, तो आप भूल जाते हैं कि आपने वो ब्रेक लेनी है, आपने वो न्यूट्रिशन स्नैक लेना है, या आपने कुछ खाना है. तो अपनी सेहत का ध्यान रखना बहुत ज़रूरी है. पानी पीते रहें, अपना प्रॉपर ब्रेक लेते रहें, मेक श्योर करें अगर आपको कोई हेल्प कर सकता है, क्योंकि कई बार आप जब वो उठा के 20 पाउंड 40 पाउंड की जब आप टब लेके जाते हैं उसमें भी आपको जो है नुकसान हो सकता है। और दूसरी बात, सन प्रोटेक्शन के लिए अपनी अगर आप सनस्क्रीन लगाते हैं, चौड़ी अपनी टोपियां पहनते हैं, अपने आप को प्रॉपरली कवर करते हैं ताकि आपको सीधी जो धूप या जो सूरज की किरणें हैं वो ना लगें, तो फिर आपकी जो चमड़ी है, जो आपकी त्वचा है, उसमें भी आपको आराम रहेगा, क्योंकि स्किन कैंसर का बहुत ज़्यादा रिस्क है। ख़ास तौर पे मैंने पहले भी बोला था कि 3.5 गुना ज़्यादा कैंसर का रिस्क उन लोगों को है जो बाहर काम करते हैं, इसके बनस्बत की जो अपने ऑफिसेस में काम करते हैं।
Thank you so much for coming in. What a wonderful piece of advice for all those people that are watching Asian Pulse today. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Just in closing, I would say if you need additional information, please go to our website, worksafebc.com, and there's lots of information in multiple languages available in Hindi, Punjabi, and English. And thank you, Kamala, for inviting me.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Sandeep, for your valuable information for all of our viewers. Now we have some announcements that you would like to have note of, so get your pen and paper ready. Nichman Right Market is open now on every weekend until end of September. They have cuisines from all over the world, so don't miss out on going and enjoying it. Mustari Begum Festival. This is an Indian classical music festival. It's a dance come music festival and it is back again this year at Messi Theatre on September 23 at 7 p.m. For tickets and more information, you can call Messi Theatre at 604-521-5050 or you can go on their website to buy the tickets. As always,